spiritless players, woeful performances, incompetent recruitment, and an inept manager. Manchester United were absolutely battered. A humbling night for Manchester United. Newcastle United were full of it. They were amazing. They were robust. They were fighters. They were hungry. They deserved it. They were better than Manchester United, and they absolutely battered them. That was an incredible game of football at St. James's Park, and I truly loved it. Dare I say it, that was a delectable medley of footballing splendour. But Manchester United are in crisis. They are all over the place, and I will say smoke and mirrors. Smoke and mirrors to anybody who believed that Manchester United had turned a corner. Anybody that conformed to that ridiculous paradigm that suggested that Manchester United were doing well because they were top of the form table. That was total and utter nonsense. And if you believed in that, if you were part of that conversation, if you did anything to add to the furtherance of that theory, I am afraid that you need to have a look in the mirror, because critical thinking is so important. And if you genuinely believed the uninspiring wins against Brentford, against Fulham, against Sheffield United, and against Luton Town was somehow an indicator that Manchester United were back on track, then I am afraid that you are either an optimist or off your rocker, because they are woeful. The beginning of this video, I said spiritless players, and that truly is what we witnessed today. They were so spiritless. There was no fight. There was no hunger. There was no determination. And Newcastle United was simply better. They were more up for it. They were faster. They were stronger. They were hungrier. They were more skillful. They were everything that Manchester United were not. And let's remember that Newcastle United have had an intense week. A brilliant week for them, but an intense week. And they are down to their bare bones. And yet they have battered Manchester United to that extent. And Manchester United are now down to 7th in the league. And their record against teams in the top half this season, they have played 5 and they have lost 5. Manchester United's record against teams in the top 8 since 2021. So the entire Erik ten Hag tenure has been laced with this abject failure against those in and around them. So this season, they have played 5 and they have lost 5. They have scored 2 goals against those teams, and they have conceded 12. Teams in the top half, they have managed to score twice against. They have managed to concede 12 against. And yet, some people were saying that going into the game against Newcastle United, they were top of the form table. Manchester United are a mystery, but they are a complete and utter disaster at the moment. They're atrocious. Ten Hag is done. He is Romeo done. And there really is no hope for them this season. Like, I truly believe that Erik ten Hag is done. People will say that I'm wrong. People will say that you need to persevere with the manager, and maybe that's true. When I say that he is done, I'm not even totally blaming him. Look, of course, you have to apportion some of the blame to Erik ten Hag. He's responsible for the team. He selects the players. His recruitment policy has been nothing short of woeful. But I also believe that in a club like Manchester United, the structure of the club and the way that the club is run, you are set up to fail. But that doesn't mean that he hasn't failed. And that doesn't mean that he doesn't have to bid farewell to his role at that club. His tenure is over. I have seen this time and time again. Remember, I'm a Chelsea fan. I've seen what happens when players stop buying into a manager. I know the signs. I can see them. Any Chelsea fan, I believe, can genuinely see them before other people. It's like one of those whistles that only dogs can hear. Chelsea fans can see players that are no longer buying into a manager. And whether that manager is right or wrong, they are no longer buying into him, and therefore he has to leave. I've seen it at Chelsea. Once the players turn their back on Jose Mourinho, Diego Costa, Thibaut Courtois, Eden Hazard, once that happened, there was no option but for Mourinho to leave. It was wrong that he had to leave, but that was the only possible outcome. And we are in that situation now. I believe that Jadon Sancho opting to sit tight at Manchester United and effectively say to the world that his time at Manchester United can outlast that of Ten Hag. Jadon Sancho is going to sit tight and wait for a new manager with a clean slate. There is no way that Erik ten Hag can keep his job at that club. They are all over the place. And tonight, yes, the game finished 1-0 to Newcastle United. But make no mistake about it, if you did not see the game, they were battered by Newcastle. Newcastle absolutely destroyed them. It was men against boys, and I would say that it is Manchester United's worst performance so far this season. That is how bad it was for Manchester United, off the back of a travesty in Europe, in Istanbul. I just cannot believe how bad it has got for this team. They were well and truly battered by the team that wanted it more, and Newcastle United deserve so much credit. Since Manchester United, in fact, since Manchester United beat them in the cup final, that's now, just over a year ago, they've played each other 3 times. Newcastle United have won every single one of those encounters. That cup final is a seminal moment in those two clubs' history. Everything has changed for the worse for Manchester United. Manchester United have been to another cup final. They've been battered by Manchester City. They've watched their nearest and dearest win a treble. Newcastle United on the ascendancy in the Champions League. What a week for Newcastle United, by the way. Injury ravaged, batter Chelsea, deserve victory against Paris Saint-Germain, and then batter Manchester United. What a week. And you have to bear in mind that they have done all of that with 14 players. Well, it looks like 15 players now, right? 15 players out. Virtually no bench to call on. 11 players having to play the 90 minutes. In fact, Eddie Howe made a substitution towards the end of the game today. The first one for 200 minutes. They have played 200 minutes of football and they made one substitution. And that was on the 97th minute in order to give Anthony Gordon a standing ovation that he well deserves. In fact, I recently had an argument regarding England and who goes with England. I said Marcus Rashford deserves to be dropped. Gareth Southgate should not take Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford has no right to travel with England. And people will say, but this time last year, he was England's top goal scorer at a World Cup and he scored 30 goals last season. He's been abysmal, unforgivably abysmal this season. Anthony Gordon should go in his place. Anthony Gordon deserves to go to England, and today he was truly sensational. That's 6 Premier League goals for him so far this season, and he's undoubtedly Newcastle United's most important player. All of this, by the way, is off the back of him being named player of the tournament at the Under-21 Euros. What a player he is. I did not anticipate him being this good. And the fact that Newcastle United have won today, they were so good. They played with intent and skill for 100 minutes. Manchester United played for about 15. Anthony had the ball in the back of the net, but Maguire was loitering offside. It's almost insignificant. And now Newcastle United are up to 5th in the table. It's just huge. It was a sort of triumph today for the intensity of Newcastle United. You know what Eddie Howe says, doesn't he? Our identity is our intensity. And that really did shine through today. The human spirit for Newcastle United, you could see at the end, the players did a lap of honour. And sometimes I'd be sneery about a lap of honour when you haven't really won anything or you're not doing it at the end of the season to celebrate something. But I think it was fair enough. They're down to their bare bones and they played with such a desire and intensity that Manchester United basically couldn't handle them. Equally, they couldn't match them. They had no answers, Manchester United. And watching the Newcastle fans at the end of the game sing their version of Hey Jude as the players do a lap of honour, you kind of go, fair enough, they deserve that. And you can see the team unity, the harmony. The goal was actually a reflection of that. Gordon scored a brilliant goal. He finished off a beautiful move, whipped across by Kieran Trippier, and that was representative of them as a team. Equally, I saw the worst thing you can possibly see for your team. If you're a Manchester United fan, this is going to cut you in half. At the end of the game, I saw McLaren out there. As the players were trying to sneak off the pitch without acknowledging the travelling support, freezing cold, travelling across the country, a really long way, Manchester to Newcastle, very expensive trains on the build-up to Christmas. It is a commitment, and the United fans were so vocal, so loud, and they deserved acknowledgement from their players. A lot of players tried to sneak off, and it was a disgrace. Steve McLaren's out there trying to usher them across. Acknowledge. Those players are cowards. Sickening. But juxtapose that with everything I've said about Newcastle. The harmony, the team unity, and the goal represents that. Manchester United are in crisis. Newcastle United are annoyingly brilliant. Simple as that. please do me one favour before you go. Don't go anywhere. Click subscribe. Please, it massively helps me out and it'd be my honour to welcome you into this community. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful night.